Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Gio. Chapter 22, Ilio. I had no idea what to say. Danny stood by the bed, wearing nothing but a green beach towel. His clothes lay in a pile on the floor. The suitcase was open and lay on the bed. Danny's eyes looked like peaches when she looked up at me and wagged her tail, pleading. His face was pink, and it wasn't just the sunburn. He hugged one arm to his abdomen, shifting from one leg to the other. He bit his lower lip, stared at the floor, then back at me, eyes wide, as if he were watching the headlights of a freight train running straight at him. He swallowed and stuttered as he spoke. I want you to make love to me. Right now. Then he fumbled at the towel, hesitant whether to let it fall. His face screwed up and reddened even more. Danny couldn't look at me, but stared at the floor. His fingers refused to let go of the towel and kept it tight about his waist. What else had Noah said to him? Danny waved over the suitcase like some game show girl displaying a car. Danny's voice quivered. Was that a slight sob? I have everything you'll need, right here. I'm yours. Danny paused. His eyes refused to look at me. He rubbed his arm, but his hand shook. Babe, please. Another cry for help. I closed the door behind me, stepping in a little. Now I'm scared. It was just like the first time I tried to stand on a surfboard, knowing that one wrong move meant wipeout. Except this wipeout would hurt a lot more. This wasn't a game to Danny. He was terrified. He was serious. He was shaking. Danny, I said. Well, whatever you want me to do, whatever you want to do to me is fine. Whatever you want me to do to you, I'll do. Please, he said. The desperation warbled through his voice, and he took a shallow breath. He still didn't look at me. Danny, you don't have to do this, I said. Yes, I do. He turned away for a moment. The back of his hand wiped his cheek. I have to. This was definitely not my kind of conversation. One wrong word and I would destroy everything we had built this last week. I needed to stall. What's in the suitcase? I said, trying to ignore the stab of fear in my gut. Taking my hand, Daniel led me to a wonderland of anything sexual. Condoms, lubes, syrups, lotions. Surrounded by his old clothes and his old shoes. I reached in and pulled out a green box. Glow-in-the-dark condoms? I've always wondered if these would work, I said. You want to try one? I'll turn the lights out. Danny spoke fast, grabbing the box from me and ripping it apart. Condoms flew about, scattering across the room. I'm sorry, Danny said, and dove to the floor in a panic, one hand still holding the towel around his waist. I'll get you one. I took a deep breath and tried to smile. Maybe a little humor would diffuse the situation. You must have bought the store out. Danny gave a small, humorless chuckle. He reached for a green condom package and sat on the bed, flipping the condom against his leg. The color faded from his face, but his shoulders remained tense. I'm making a fool of myself, he whispered. Reaching to the floor, he found his Speedo and board shorts. I took a deep breath, held it a moment, and let it out. You know that one wrong word that might destroy everything? I think I might have said it. I gave him the flowers. These are for you. Thanks. He set them on the bed, rose, and pulled up the Speedo under the towel. He didn't look at me. We'd better get going. From 60 miles an hour to a dead stop in 3 seconds flat. I didn't know what to say or what to do. Danny pulled up the matching board shorts and then crawled on the floor gathering the condoms and his shirt. I'm sorry about what just happened, Danny softly said, and dropped the condoms into the suitcase. It won't happen again. Don't worry. I'll be leaving tomorrow. I know when I'm outclassed." "Danny," I said. "Outclassed? He can't compete. He doesn't compare against his brothers. Whether Noah had intended it or not, he said the one thing that Danny was the most vulnerable to." "No one has ever given me flowers before," Danny said. "Thanks. I want you to know that I'm grateful for what you and Barney and your friends did for me." "Danny," I said, "I'm losing him. I'm not like Barney. I'm no good at these kinds of conversations." "It's okay. I know I'm just a fling. Well, not much of one either. You need someone better than me," Danny said. It was like someone had hit me with a board right in the gut. What we had shared this week was almost gone. I took his hand and pulled him back to the bed. Maybe if I just spoke, maybe the words didn't matter. "Sit with me. When I first met Noah, he seemed like everything right in the world. Older, wiser. I thought he was the most beautiful man I had ever seen. We dated, hung out. I think he liked hanging out with a 19-year-old. I felt pretty special being the boyfriend of a guy 4 years older." "Then what?" Danny asked, and grabbed his right sandal and put it on. "After we'd been together for a few months, his dark side came out. He stopped being so wonderful. He ordered me to do anything, and if I didn't do what he wanted, he would get angry," I said. "Why did you stay with him?" Danny said, and slipped on his left sandal. "Being with him was fun for a while, as long as I always did anything he wanted. Not just sex, but everything else as well. It was always his way," I said. "Do you miss him?" Daniel said, pulled on his shirt and picked up the flowers. "No. I want you to know that. How could I say this? I would rather be celibate with you than have anything to do with him. I fell in love with you. I never did with Noah. What we have is as special to me as what I have with Billy. I don't care where you go. I will always call you. I will wait for you to come back to Hawaii, even if it takes a year." As he stared at his hands, Danny bit his lip and closed his eyes. "When you're ready and we have time," I said, and pulled Danny close so I was only inches from his ear. I whispered, "I would be honored. You trusted me with your virginity." Danny's eyes shot open, and he turned away. "You can have so much more than I could ever give." I brushed his hair back from his forehead and lowered my voice to a whisper. "That's not true. We have fun together, and you understand me in ways no one else does, not even Billy." Danny stepped away from me and finished dressing. I was losing him. "Danny, listen to me. This week has been the best week I've ever had, and it's all because I met you." "It's been great for me too, but we both have to get back to reality," Danny said. How can I make Danny understand what he means to me? I rummaged through the suitcase. For not knowing what he was doing, Danny had gone overboard for his honeymoon. What a disaster. This was a disaster. "We have to go," Danny said, his voice stable and a little bit distant. I had lost him. If I ever saw Noah again, I'd punch him. There must be a way to salvage this, but I don't know what. Barney might know. Billy might know. I am clueless. I have to stall until I can figure something out. I rolled off the bed, stepped up to the suitcase, and pulled out the lotions. "We could have used this for your ears." I pulled out the syrups. "We can use these at the barbecue. Mom said Cousin Sal is bringing ice cream." I pulled up a small cloth bag. "What's this?" Daniel leaned over the bed and looked. Another mistake. Opening the bag, I poured the contents out. One single gold band. "Where's the other one?" I asked. Ashley's dad took it from Ashley and gave it to Dad. It's back in Dead Man's Butte. 1.5 carats and small stones surrounding a 1/2 carat stone set in white gold. It wouldn't look good on either of us. I tried the band on one finger, then the other. Finally, it fit on the end joint of my littlest finger. You have small fingers. Danny stared at me, then at the ceiling. Had I said the wrong thing again? Quickly, Danny closed the suitcase and put it into the closet. I'll wait for you at the car. Danny disappeared in the hall, but he had given me an idea. I'd need to make another stop at the gift shop. I called home and told them that we were on the way. I spoke to Grammy, because I would need her help. Daniel. Ilio was nice enough not to mention that I had made a fool of myself. To think that Ilio would feel for me like I did him in only a week. He had been a really good friend when I needed one, and for that I would always be grateful. It took 3 of us to make the fries, because we used 100 pounds of potatoes. Yes, there were that many people. Ilio cut, I fried. Billy shook the seasoning on them. They were as good as I remembered. Who was at my farewell party? Ilio and his family, all the surfers, Cousin Sal and his family, Mauricio and his family. It turns out that he's another uncle. And so many cousins, aunts, and uncles I couldn't keep track of who was who. And Barney came with his wife. We made tons of fries, and they disappeared. Cousin Sal brought us homemade wine, and most of the adults enjoyed it. The exceptions, me, Billy, and Ilio. Ilio kept giving me weird looks every so often. When he wasn't looking, I looked back. I wished things had been different. What had I been thinking this morning? Who would I even tell about this? Hey, Dad, guess who made a fool of themselves on their last day in Hawaii? No, definitely not. The party lasted all afternoon. More wine, more fries, more burgers, and they even brought out piñatas for the kids. There must have been enough food for twice that number of people, and no one left hungry. I called Dad. I had no idea what time it was over there, or even what they would be doing. Dad answered on the first ring. Daniel, how are you doing? Dad said. My old name sounded stiff, rigid, and boring. This trip had changed me. And even though Ilio and me would never be more than friends, he had shown me a different way to live. I wouldn't go back to the old me. It's Danny now, Dad. Daniel's too formal. You must really be loving it over there, Dad said. Ilio glanced at me, then quickly looked away. We're having a family party, Hawaiian style. I slowly spun the phone, displaying the chaos around me. That's Billy and Shiori, I said, focusing on them. Hey, Danny's dad. Billy waved a peace sign. We're not letting Danny go back to Nevada. You know how good his fries are, Shiori said. One of his many talents, Ilio said, and joined in the picture, smiling. He took my hand. Hey, Dallas, how's the weather? Hot and dry. What's that around your neck? Dad said. Ilio wore some type of leather thong necklace around his neck, with a glimmer of gold hanging from it. That's my wedding ring, I said. You weren't using it, Ilio said, and leaned in close. Grammy made this for me. Do you like? Do you know what this means? Billy shouted. Ilio is Danny's boy toy. Danny, did you forget to tell me something? Dallas said, smiling. I stared at the ring on the necklace. The embarrassment of this morning changed to a different, chaotic emotion that I couldn't name. Only when I remember to tell myself, Dad. Are you going out tonight? You look pretty dressed up. I have a date with the caterer I told you about, Dad said. Good for you. You'll have to introduce us sometime, I said. Ilio squeezed my hand and couldn't stop grinning. What was he trying to tell me? I can do that right now, Dad said. The angle flipped as the camera rotated. It's Danny and his friends out in Hawaii. Say hi." A middle-aged woman with brown hair and a round face came into view. "Hi, Danny, Ilio, everybody. I'm Tiffany. Your dad and I met at the wedding mess last week, and I'm taking good care of him." "That you are," my dad said, and rejoined the picture, and glanced at all the people around me. He chose his words cautiously. "Danny, just so you are aware, Tiffany knows about you. She was here last night when Ashley came by demanding the ring back and made a scene. I still have the ring." "Don't worry. Everyone here knows I'm gay," I said. Dad smiled and he wrapped an arm around Tiffany. "You are a different person out there. Someday I'm going to have to meet Ilio and all your friends in person. You take care. We're heading out to the steakhouse. Dinner and line dancing." "That sounds fun," Ilio said. "Danny, we'll have to try it the next time you're in Hawaii." "My social calendar is booking up fast. How about next week?" Billy said. "Good night, Dad," I said. Some of the neighbors joined us. More food. By 3 we were out of potatoes. Ilio and I sat by a fire pit. Yes, they had a fire pit, and everyone was roasting marshmallows and making s'mores. Ilio leaned into me and laid his head against me for a change. "We have to figure out how to get Dead Man's Butte and Honolulu closer to each other." "What's with the ring?" I asked. "I'll tell you later. And I have a goodbye present for you," he whispered, when we're alone. We sat and everyone talked about soccer. Everyone had a favorite team or player or fact or something. Not me. All I know is that the ball is round. About 5, Ilio jumped up and pulled me with him. "I want to show you something." Johnny looked up from the fire and stared at us. I nodded. He nodded back. "You two have fun," Johnny said, and he came over and gave me a hug. "I'm still really sorry about the other day." "Don't be. It's mostly better." And it was, if you didn't press in the wrong spot. Ilio pulled some covered bowls from the fridge and put them in the back seat of his car. After climbing into the car, Ilio pulled out onto the main road, and before long we were outside the city, following the same coast road as we did last Sunday. The sun shone, the ocean sparkled, and the green was everywhere. No rain in sight. There were a few clouds, but they were the high feathery kind, not the big ones that bring torrents of rain. "Tell me what Noah said to you," Ilio said, one hand on the wheel, the other hand on mine. My shame again. I stared out the window as my face warmed up. As much as I tried to keep my voice steady, it wavered. This morning still hurt. "You needed a real man, an older man, not a virgin, like..." The sentence remained unfinished. The sky in Hawaii was perfect all the time. "You're too quiet tonight. When's your birthday?" Ilio said. "November 23rd, I said. "That's funny. You're about 2 months older than me. I guess I fall for older men," Ilio said, his hand playing with the wedding ring around his throat. We drove a few miles more. "Where are we going?" I asked. "My favorite place. The one I was going to show you the other day," Ilio said. I covered his hand with mine and stared at the ocean. What a difference a week made. Same sky, same ocean. Though no rain. Same car, same 2 people. But something had changed. I wasn't scared of tomorrow anymore. I knew what I needed to do. And when I was done, I'd find a way to come back to Hawaii, to Ilio. Maybe we could start again. Somehow, be more than friends. Green trees and shrubs lined the freeway until we took a turn inland, and then it was green everywhere you looked. This was definitely not Nevada. We followed the road, and then took a couple of side routes that weren't paved. Ilio finally pulled the car next to a stand of trees. "We're here." Danny. Ilio must have planned for this, because his car was already loaded. The trunk had a couple of Walmart sacks, some firewood, a blanket, not to mention whatever was in the bowls in back. We hiked the stuff up the short hill to a relatively flat area with a stone-lined fire pit. It was quiet. No sound from the highway reached us, no voices. Even the distant ocean was too far to be heard. Only the lonely cries of distant gulls made it this far. Ilio set the wood in the fire pit, arranged it, added a bit of paper, and lit it with a lighter. I set the blanket out, arranged the bowls and sacks, and we sat. The little hill had a perfect view of the ocean. There were short trees, but those were behind us. To one side, we would have a perfect view of the sunset. We started the day with the sunrise. Now we would be ending it with the sunset. A jet took off from the distant airport, flying easterly towards California, towards Nevada, and home. 24 hours from now, I would be getting off one. The fire started, adding its crackling to the silence. Ilio pulled out his phone and turned it off. "Turn your phone off. I want it to only be us," he said. I did. We sat next to each other, and Ilio pulled one of the covered dishes over and opened it. Strawberries. He pulled another over. Sliced pineapple. The third was dipping chocolate. He opened up one of the bags and pulled out marshmallows and graham crackers, chocolate bars, and long wooden shish kebab skewers. "You planned ahead," I said. I did. When Johnny needed to talk, we also went to Walmart and I picked up a few things. I wanted your last night to be special, so I brought you out here, to my special spot. "It's beautiful," I said. "I come here when I need to get away from the chaos of my family, or when life gets too hard, or I need to think." He said. He reached for the last bag. "This morning, I thought you were going to get on that plane early and run away from Hawaii. I thought Noah had ruined the best thing that had ever happened to me. I needed to say something. And here was the only place I could tell you." The wind whistled through the trees behind us. I placed my arm around Ilio's back and gently scratched one of his shoulder blades. "What did you want to tell me?" He reached into the bag and pulled out a small package wrapped in blue paper. It was bigger than a ring box, so I knew it wasn't that. It also wobbled a little. Whatever was inside was made of fabric, but it felt more like leather lacing. There was something hard inside as well. "When you were waiting at the car, I went to one of the gift shops and bought something," Ilio said, and pulled a Sharpie out of the bag. "Take your shirt off and lay down." I did as he said, and lay down. He handed me the package. I opened it. It was a matching necklace to what Ilio wore, including a ring as a centerpiece. "Ilio?" I said. "I bought the ring and had Grammy make this because I never want you to feel like you did this morning," Ilio said. I leaned over. He put it on me and tightened it so it looked like his. Then I laid back down. "Noah said I was just a summer fling. Everyone had them," I said. "Ian. He doesn't know what he's talking about. There is too much work going on at the Monarch. As a general rule, there is no fraternization between guests and staff." "There isn't time," I said. "What about me?" Danny asked. "After hours and lunchtime only," I said, leaning up on an elbow. "And we never hit it, and we were only friends at first. Lynette knew, and if there was a problem, she would have said something." Danny closed his eyes. "This wasn't a fling for me." "Me neither." With as tender a touch as I could, I made Danny face me. I laid my hand on his cheek, slowly stroking it with my thumb. Danny whispered, "Where do we go from here?" "I don't know, but wherever it is, I want to go together," I said. With a slight nod, he closed his eyes again. "Me too." Placing my arms around him, I pulled him close. We lay that way for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. I rolled away and pulled him up. "Never forget how special you are," I said. Danny nodded twice and blinked away tears. You have changed my life, Mr. Roberson, I said. When Danny spoke, it was with a whisper. You too, Mr. Smith. It's too soon to propose, and if it was a month from now, I probably would. But you won't be here, so this is the best I can do. I love you, Danny Roberson. Sometime this week, you went from a stranger to one of my closest friends, to someone I want to live with, to someone I want to spend the rest of my life with. Danny placed his hands behind his head. I wish I didn't have to go tomorrow. Me too, I said, opening the Sharpie. It's my turn to draw on your chest now. I started to draw a rectangle. A door? Danny guessed. It's time you let all the sadness out. It's an open door, and these lines are the ocean coming through that door into the chambers of your soul and washing them clean, I said. What's that next to it? A stick figure? Danny said. That's me. I'm standing on my surfboard, waiting for you to come swimming out, I said. You know I can't swim, Danny said. I had to smile. That's only this week. A month from now, it will be different, I bet. I didn't know you were an artist, Danny said. I'm not, but I can draw stick figures. Shani thought your drawing looked like a fuzzy fish, I said. I'll try again, Danny said. Too late. No time for do-overs, remember? I said. I drew another stick figure next to the one on the board. Look, there's you. You made them the same height, Danny said. We are. I put the cap back on the pen and put it in the bag. I pulled a couple of other things from the bag. Condoms? I had those back at the Monarch, Danny said. Someday, I hope we use every single one of them, but I respect you and your decision to wait until marriage. These come with a promise. The night we get married is the night we open the box. Our honeymoon night we will spend right here, under the stars, together. Your first time will be under the Hawaiian sky. I want you to look back on that night and smile. I want you to know that I love you. I want every time you think about Hawaii, you float off the ground and everybody who sees you knows that something very special happened. I leaned over and ran a finger along the drawing. That's my promise, I whispered, and kissed Danny's hand. I took the box and wrote, "Do not open." Did you just propose? Danny said. When you come back to Hawaii, I guess we'll find out. When did we fall in love? Danny said. 10 minutes ago, a week ago, I don't know, I said, and placed the unopened condom box on Danny's chest. My mouth hovered about an inch over his mouth. Just remember, I love you, and I reserve the right to kiss you anytime, any place, in front of any person. I will wait for you, because you're worth waiting for. Thank you for listening, everybody. I appreciate it. Peace.